Aloha, it's CreativeNameToStandOut again, and here I have a channel update. So, of course, this is going to be dealing with the Age of Sigmar. I also have a couple other things I want to show off. I'll save that to the end. I'm very proud of them. So, here we go. We're going to be looking at some pictures. I am converting models up for the Age of Sigmar. I'm full into the Age of Sigmar. The idea with my channel is going to be to continue putting out 8th edition battle reports as they come up, with the idea that it's just going to be a transition over to the Age of Sigmar. Hopefully that's how it works out. Of course, it's not all in my control. I have to depend on opponents, and if here in the local community it turns out nobody wants to play the Age of Sigmar, well then I'm going to have to re-examine where I am. So I want to start off by talking about how some of the things I love about the Age of Sigmar, or the things that I like or don't mind, maybe I should say it that way. One of the best things I love about the Age of Sigmar is I have a lot of terrain at my house. I buy lots of terrain. I think my grandfather used to do terrain model sets, had one room dedicated to where he had a duck under the tables and all that stuff, and it was just like a landscape of terrain models and stuff. And I think that's where I got that addiction to making up, a make-believe land and just constructing it. So the most important part of the hobby for me is to have a beautiful table with lots of terrain and just to create a new world. And all that stuff that I own right now is fantasy oriented, so I need to play a fantasy game. And so the Age of Sigmar is where I'm going to go, and the thing I like about the change is the fact that now my models, whereas they were kind of divorced from the terrain in the sense that they were stuck in blocks, you kind of were like, oh, they're in the tower, they never walked up certain pieces of terrain. Now they get to interact with it in the sense that they can travel up the steps, they can go inside the buildings as individuals, they can split the unit up and slowly go around a rock rather than having to just completely commit to the left or right side. Just a lot more interaction, and I appreciate that in this game. I don't mind the base change. I will not, in the short term, maybe not even the long term, convert my models over to circles. I've been holding on to boxes of models for the future in case the bases did change. That includes about 30 Bleak Swords and 30 Witches and some other variety of things. So I am prepared, and I've already started constructing these models. But overall, I don't really care. It's all about functionality. If we're gonna be making units that are gonna be ranked up, of course I want squares. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. I think the circle ones look fine. It's all how you present it. So it's not that big of a deal to me. I do like a lot of the new characteristics on the unit cards. I like the unit cards. I like the idea that when you come to a game, you can have all these cards out on the table to just quickly reference to see what your unit does. I've actually made things similar to this to when I'm introducing somebody new into the game, and this will now be the same concept and save me all the trouble. I can just pull them out. So I do appreciate that a lot. I do like a lot of the new characteristic changes. I like the fact that there's no more initiative. That is from a Dark Elf player. I like the new mechanic in which the person who charges has the initiative to decide where the combat is going to go first and gets to strike first. And then I also like the fact that the defending player then gets to pick whatever combat he wants to go to next and strike there. I think then it does follow that you want to charge in odd numbers rather than even numbers, of course, because there's no benefit gained to charge in even numbers, I would think. Because if you're charging 2 units in, you'll get, of course, to choose who goes first, but then you're just kind of allowing your opponent to then defang your second charge. Whereas if you charge 3 units in, you get to now choose where you want to charge first. Then maybe you set up 2 equally good charges. One will, of course, possibly get defanged, while the other one will maybe hopefully gain you a more effective cost-benefit trade-off. I don't know. But I think that is maybe something you might want to consider as a tactic, or something at least to be cognizant of as we go forward in this edition. So the other thing I like about this new edition is the simplifications of the to hit and to wound rolls and the armor saves and the rend saves. So I like it because it's not really that much of a deviation from the last edition. Usually in the last edition, things are really in the spectrum of 3, 4, and 5. So all your weapon skill 3 guys in this edition are hitting on 4s. And in 8th edition, they were normally hitting on 4s. I mean, maybe an Empire Swordsman was going against a Skink, and that's a difference. But, because I don't hate this game because it didn't preserve that particular combat characteristic. Your elite units are still hitting things on 3s mostly, and in the previous edition they were mostly hitting things on 3s, unless of course they're going against, another elite unit or character. Now that bumps them up a little bit. So I feel like the change, while noticeably different, you can notice the difference, is not in practice very different. So I don't really mind that change. The to wound is a little bit awkward for me if I continue to think about the game in the 8th edition terms, where strength determined how you're going to wound a unit. But in this edition, since strength is no longer a characteristic, if I think about it in terms of the likeliness of the weapon they're holding wounding a target, I guess I can make logical sense to myself. So, I mean, I know I'm creating new logic for it to work, but that's probably what in essence needs to happen here, because this, again, is a totally different game from the 8th edition. But I do think they missed out on an opportunity here. They have all these key words. I think they could have made the core rulebook more than 4 pages, maybe like 6 pages, maybe 8 pages, in which universal rules still existed, and just made a universal rule that if you have the keyword monster, the to wound is increased by 1, or the difficulty of it is increased by 1, and there you can simulate that. But then again, maybe that would have been super overpowered. I don't think so, considering the other flaws in this game. There's some easy, creative ways to simulate more things and still have a very concise rule set. I like that army building's taking out of the game, where you pre-construct your list beforehand. I always thought that was, overplayed as being tactical in all war games, frankly. You're just really counting on a paper, rock, scissors thing. You're counting that you're going to bring something that your opponent can't handle. And if that's the basis of the game, then it's just a complicated paper, rock, scissors. Now that army building is way more dynamic, way more fluid, the ability to be more reactionary, I think that actually lends the game to be more tactical. If there was other things about this game that was fixed, that is. So I'm not going to say that this game is extremely tactical. I'm just saying the concept is way more tactical. It is now more, if we consider just the concept itself rather than this specific game, is more more focused on what you're doing on the tabletop rather than how you structured your list. So, I mean, if you're into a tactical game, that's something I would think you would be really excited about. Now, of course, there's a lot of problems with this game in the fact that it's not supposed to be competitive. So, even though the concept's there and lends itself to, I think, that type of mindset, the other factors of the game come in and just kind of pull the rug out from under that. So, I don't know, here's a suggestion I would give. I know we're trying to talk about comp and all that stuff, but you don't want to get rid of that great dynamic that's been added to the game. So here's something I want to try out, and I can encourage other people to try out. How about we build army lists still? We still have pre-constructed lists, and then you want to say that 6 scrolls represents your normal size game, but you want to preserve the dynamic of being able to react to people. So how about people build lists of 10 scrolls, but you only deploy 6, or up to 6. You could deploy just 4 or 3, but the thing is, you bring 10 scrolls to a tournament, and you guys start deploying, and as you start deploying, you're choosing from that bucket of 10, but only deploying up to 6. I think that's a good way to preserve the flexibility of making an army on the fly and being able to react to what your opponent's bringing. That way it's not a game of paper, rock, scissors, and yet still kind of limit the possibilities that may be deployed against you that would cause, yet again, a paper, rock, scissors scenario. But again, I don't know. I don't go to tournaments. I'm just trying to offer up more ideas. I do have empathy for a lot of these competitive players out there. This is definitely a game that's not meant to be, in its most raw form, competitive. So this is just an idea I want to throw out there to some of you. I know people have offered other ideas, including, counting wounds or doing these mathematical equations. I know that there's a lot of problems with those. I think this is... and I think those overlook the fact that you want to preserve that flexibility. So, please try it out. Tell me how it works for you. I'd be interested to see what happens under these type of conditions. So moving on to even more controversial statements, I actually really like the look of these new models coming out. I think they look fine. I think they look pretty. I like the angels. I like that that statuesque look of the armor. So it appeals to me. I'm going to buy the starter set. I will probably start a Sigmar army. So I'm going to have Dark Elves, Chaos, and now Sigmar. And I'm pretty excited. My wife's just looking at me, not too sure she wants me to buy more army stuff. So maybe I should have made that announcement somewhere else. So yes, I am fully committed to Age of Sigmar, and yes, I don't think the game is perfect. I think it's very clunky. I think some of the rules are incredibly not thought out, and so much so that I actually sent an email to customer service, not really expecting to get a response other than maybe an automated response saying, hey, we received your email. But yeah, it's really short to the point. I don't like the rules. But they sent me an email back. I thought that was really cool, so they kind of won some favor in me. They didn't really say much to help me out. But they at least acknowledged that they know that I don't like the rules, and they at least gave me some lip service saying they'll pass it up to somebody else. So maybe if enough people do that, it might convince them to amend the rules at the very least. So I would encourage everyone to send polite letters to GW. They'll probably not pay too much attention to them if they're all, hey, you're a jackass for making this game. So yeah, just something I think was kind of neat that I want to share with you. So with all this being said, we'll talk about the future of my channel. I'm going to attempt to make the transition from 8th edition to Age of Sigmar. That's what I want to do. It really, though, depends on what everybody around me does. There's not a large community of people out here already playing Fantasy, so if they decide they don't want to go to Age of Sigmar, then I'm not going to have any opponents. And that's the only game I play. I have some other stuff. I have a World War II game whose name I've already forgotten that I have models for. I play the Russians in it. And then I have some 40k stuff that I've been holding on to just because I love the look of the new Stormtroopers and the Skitarii. So yes, I've revealed myself. I am that new customer base that GW wants to cater to, the type of person that buys their models because they want to collect their models. So I'm that very small population of people that would still buy for them under that model of business. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do 40k. We'll see. I don't know. It depends. I got out of 40k for a particular reason. I don't know what the rules are like now, but we will see. As far as Warhammer Wrap's concerned, I'll continue doing that. I'll be directing people to both Warhammer 8th Edition Battle Reporters and Age of Sigmar Battle Reporters until that point in the future when the lines are clearly divided. You have the crowd that's going to keep the old world alive and the crowd that has moved on to Age of Sigmar. And since I've thrown my lot in with the Age of Sigmar, when it comes to that point, I'll be directing people to that part of the market. So I don't expect that to be something that's going to happen anytime soon. I would imagine it's like 6 months, 8 months down the road when we find out whether or not Age of Sigmar is a self-sustaining product. And if it is, then yeah, that's what I'm going to do with the Warhammer Wrap. All right, so finally, if you've been looking at the screen, this bridge that I've been showing you is from Tabletop World. They make the most gorgeous terrain pieces I can find. I don't know if there's something else out there that makes better terrain pieces than this, but these are just gorgeous and unbelievably detailed and just authentic looking. I've been looking for a bridge, like I said, and I finally bought one, and it's this one from Tabletop World. And it's not even put together all the way. There's a little lamppost, there's a little boat, there's all these like nice little details. I encourage you guys, if you want quality terrain and you got a little bit of cash to spare, to go to this guy's website, or yeah, I think they're two brothers, I don't know, and just check out their stuff. It's just the best. So I'm really, really proud to have this on my table. I can't wait to use it in my next game. I can't wait to start painting it up. I have this now, a windmill. Of course, I have their well, I have a cottage, and I also have the ironsmith. I need to start painting these things right away, and we're going to have a beautiful looking table. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I really appreciate everybody watching. I hope we continue to have a lot of people interested in Age of Sigmar going forward. But I'm not under any illusion. I know the game as is right now is not at all that good. So, but hopefully they are quick to react to the market and see that maybe people aren't so satisfied with it, and they're quick to make a couple of subtle changes that I think will vastly improve the game. I think it's on the cusp of being a great game. But just not quite there. All right, everybody, guys. I'll see you guys later.